All right, we're good. We're live, guys.
Doesn't look live on my end.
Happy New Year, y'all.
Wait.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Welcome to 2018. We live.
Suffer well. Suffer well, all 18. Suffer well, 18.
Suffer well, 18.
Episode 4 of Suffering Well with the Sibs, Kevin, Brandon, Jordan, and Randy. And last episode, we talked about the New Year. So if you didn't watch it, go back and check that one out. But this year, in this episode, we're versus passion.
Did that break up for y'all too?
Yeah, Jordan, can you repeat that? We kind of went out.
So this episode 4, we're going to be talking about duty versus passion. And this came from, I was thinking about it. And a lot of times, just you guys, I don't know if we do stuff out of duty or we do it out of passion. And duty means like obligation. Like, okay, or I'm required versus passion is like, this is really what I want to do. And this is my heart desire. And just really wanting to know, like, where do you guys think you move more out of? What do you like that you move out of that one? Do you think you should be moving out of the other? So that's the first question for y'all.
Can I throw a wrench in there? I'm sorry.
Wrench
Go
it.
ahead, blood.
I think the only thing would be like, what if your duty is your passion, and what if like your
Then
duty
say
is your
that.
passion? What if your passion is your duty?
If they're synonymous, then I think that's where you want to be ultimately. But I don't think a lot of the times.
That's anonymous.
Generally, that's not. I don't think that's the consensus among people.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Brandon, you should just go because I feel like it's already on your heart.
Okay. So I think that
And be honest, not ideal.
Honestly, I think that more times out of not, I'm operating out of. I use passion because that's the word they were using, but I don't really think it's passion. I would say more like intuition. So I think that's one thing that I'm pretty in tune with is like my own intuition. So it's not like what I'm supposed to do in a moment, but it's like, I feel like this is good. I'm gonna do it anyway. And granted that sometimes it gets me in trouble. Sometimes it allows me to really go places that I haven't gone before. But I think, as you said, we all want to be in balance. And I think that I need to develop more balance that says, you're okay. That says I'm going to do it for duty, for certain things. Then I'm going to just step out in passion for others. But right now, I think I operate more out of passion.
So just to clarify, passion sometimes we really love to do. I think passion is your intuition. It's your like nature, like what you instinctively like are drawn to, as opposed to like based on any other thing. So
yeah,
go ahead, Kevin.
So I think in the previous year, I more so operated out of duty than passion, but I'm trying to move to be more of a passion person than a duty person. I think it's translated better and more authentic, and it lasts longer if it's more passion than duty. So that's where I'm at.
Rita?
I would say I'm like a 60-40 split duty. But I'm recovering from like an 80-20 split duty. So like it's definitely an improvement. Definitely getting my goal for this year is to be at least 50-50, if not more passion than duty.
Really?
But oftentimes I feel like I can't trust my intuition because I'm a very emotional person, kind of built off the conversation we had last time of like being emotional versus sensitive. And like, I'm really emotional. So I have to be careful not to just act out of emotion. And sometimes duty protects me from that.
That's good.
Duty protects you from acting out of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
that's
agree
really
with
good.
that.
And for sure. And I would say, so I thought about it because I remember being in college and we had this, I forget what reading, but it's one of my philosophy classes. classes, and I was so disappointed in myself, and it caused such to do anything. This was then. I don't do everything is because family requires me, the job requires me to do this, or this position requires me to do this. I'm just, everything is out of duty and obligation, as opposed to like, yo, what I really want to do. And I think I have a lot of stuff, and I was trying to be wild. But I agree with Randy when I say that.
No, I completely agree.
Protect. You know what I'm saying? Like it.
So I can give you something like super basic. For me.
No, I'm saying.
What'd you say?
Jordan, you got really bad service, babe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh, okay. So a real good one, or one that I just resolved with myself is bowling. So I think that bowling was always something I felt like I was supposed to be doing. Like I'm a Towns, I'm my dad's son. Like my dad's like the best bowler ever, and so I felt like it was my duty to take on that legacy. You know, you take on your father's name, you take on his mantle, and so I felt like a part of that mantle was bowling. Until like I realized like, I have the same passion that my father has for bowling. Like I literally go there and I hate being there, and so I realized like this isn't it, and so I'm trying to figure out why I'm never consistent with it. Why consistently good? Like I'm a good bowler, but because I'm not passionate about it, it comes out in the product isn't good because it's out of duty. You're just doing it because it's what you think you're supposed to do versus like this is something I really want to do and I'm really putting my heart into it. And so I realized I told myself this week in the shower, I was like, after this season, I'm gonna really hang up the bowling balls and be like, you know what, I'm gonna support my dad and being the best bowler that he is. But as far as me, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the bowling balls in the closet.
Really?
Because it's wasting my money. And because it's I could
not a passion.
It's not a passion of mine, and I really could be doing something. I could really be doing something else.
You know, I think that's very interesting. So one of my classes, what we talk about is. In one of my classes, what we talk about is it's called, a book called Drive, and it's like it's about what really motivates us as people. And there's this big, there was motivation like 2.0, which is basically the carrot and the rod. So duty kind of fits in that carrot and the rod. You know, you do it because you're supposed to, and if you don't, there's consequences. But motivation 3.0. It's okay. But motivation 3.0 is all about passion. It's all about, you know, like there's no consequences if you don't do it, except for not doing something that you love. And I think it's so interesting because like there definitely was a time where it really was about the carrot, which is like the reward, and the stick was like the punishment. But now we're getting to a time where it's not about that. And as millennials, which we are, maybe we're not millennials, we're Generation Y.
We definitely are millennials.
Debatable.
Isn't millennials big? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Stay focused.
I think regardless, I think that we sometimes get Rui went upstairs. I'm sorry. Sometimes we kind of get stuck in that old mentality of the reward and the punishment. When the truth is, you know, that doesn't really motivate us anymore. What motivates us is like passion, you know, coming alive with what you're doing. And if you're not coming alive, you're kind of like, nah, I'm not doing it.
And that actually made me think about something else. When it comes to work, like I remember being asked a question like, if you're doing something that you would do even if you didn't get paid for it, like
would you still do it?
Right thing,
yeah.
Yo, and I think about how many times at my current job I've done things that I love to do, and even when like working extra hours, like, and I wasn't mad that I was doing that. I was like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It may not be at the place that I want it to be or in the way that I want it to be, but this is definitely where I'm supposed to be at, because it doesn't matter whether I get paid or not, or even if I get paid a certain amount of money. It's just the fact of like I love being able to do what I do. And I think that separates the people who do it because they get paid and because they feel like this is what I have to do. And the people are like, yo, this is really my passion. And if I didn't get paid for it, if there was never money as a factor, then I would still do it.
And I think that's what we all aim towards. So I have another question or thought. So having grown up, I think religious in religion, and now as we like embark upon our own like spiritual and encounters with God and just a more personal relationship, how does duty and like obligation and passion kind of, does it evolve as that, or do you look at like there are certain duties I have as a believer, and despite like what I want to do or I'm inclined to do, I have to like suppress those?
One more time.
As a believer or a spiritual person, whatever we're all believers. So as believers, does that have an influence on, do you move more out of duty now in certain aspects, or is it still more out of passions, or how do y'all feel like those intertwine with your spiritual like walk?
So I think that, and we were talking about this just recently. I have heard a story, and it was like this guy walks up to this guy walks up to you and he goes, "You won't believe it. I just got hit by this semi. I was riding on my bike and a semi going 60 miles an hour just like hit me head on." And he's standing before you, like literally standing, not a scratch on him. And you look at him, you're like, "Man, please, you ain't getting no accident. Definitely wasn't with a semi. So why are you lying?" And he insists that he did. It's like, you would say, no, there's no way, because there's no way you're coming in contact with a semi, this 18-wheeler, tons of pounds truck, and you're just walking away and you're just fine. And that this just wouldn't be possible, right? And the analogy is like, you can't have this like encounter with Jesus and be the same. So like, I think that on everybody's like your own walk, and so as a believer, as your own walk with Jesus, I think if you truly encounter him, there's going to be this like encounter that you're not going to be the same. So even like, it's not about duty anymore. I think that's the idea behind, you know, the personal relationship idea, which although isn't biblical, well, personal relationship is in the Bible, that you do have like this sense of passion, like your passions change to where it's like,
they align.
I don't want to do this anymore. Not because I'm not supposed to, not because I'm supposed to do something else, but like, I just want to, like, I really want to do this. And like, imagine like in a relationship when it's like your partner may not want you to do something, but something changes when it's like, no, I just want to give you flowers. I just want to, you know, write you a love note. I just want to, as opposed to you have to. I think like a duty obligation that happens. Yeah. If you truly have an encounter with like the divine.
That's really good. And I would say, thinking about it, how my desire is like more that like the duty and obligation kind of like you said, they blend together. So it's not so much like I'm obligated to do. And I think when we think of like different sin or stuff in our life, it's like, well, or I hear people like, well, this is just me. Like, this is what I'm passionate. This is just who I am, versus like our duty to God. But like you said, I think the encounter is so important, because once you encounter that, I feel like they almost like blend and they should align. And it's like, yo, I'm passionate about the things that God is passionate about. Yeah. But it's hard, because sometimes like if he's passionate about, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's passionate about like love and stuff, like, okay, love is kind of basic, but like duty to people, like, do you have a duty to be there for people? Like to be
like justice?
No, not even on the realm of justice, just like compassion. Like, is compassion a duty or a passion? Is that something that you're just naturally compassionate, or do you need to force yourself to be compassionate? So little things like that, it's just like.
So like, it's really interesting. I'll say this, and then like Jordan and Randy, you guys should definitely chime. I mean, Randy and Kevin should definitely chime in. But like when I was, I think the biggest time in my life was like my junior year of college, and I think I changed. I think that one song that definitely helped change was like, I think it's from The Inside Out. That's what the song is called. But it has this one part and it says like, break my heart for what breaks yours. And that's like, so I mean, that to me like is really where, if I see my life changed in that period, it's because of that song. And it's like, maybe my heart really did begin to break for what broke God's heart, you know? So I think that that's really cool.
So I think that, so it's interesting that you bring that question up, just because I think somebody talks about what our pastor talked about today, as far as like, it's right, like there's a certain standard that comes with experiencing God and like getting to the place where you have an encounter with God. And so I think in that there's a duty to meet that standard, to meet that standard. So I think there's a duty component to it, but I think the majority of your spirituality should come from a passionate perspective than from a duty perspective. I think we function from a duty perspective. We did what we were supposed to.
Duty sounds religious to me.
It sounds very religious, very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, but I mean, when I'm saying it, I think it's from like a standpoint of like, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to go to church, you're supposed to sing in the choir, you're supposed to be on the usher board, you're supposed to know the Genesis 1:1, you're supposed to know John 3:16, you're supposed to know Ephesians 1:1. Like, you're supposed to know,
quote the books of the Bible.
You're supposed to know the book of the Bible. You're supposed to go to Bible Sunday school and Bible study. But I think like those things also challenge you, because then once you get to the place where you don't have those, I want to almost call them like boundaries, like, or like
structures.
Yeah, structures, frameworks. Once those are gone, I think then you move into this passionate perspective to where like you do what really is in your heart to do. I think there is that transitional period where it's all blurred. I think you then get to the point, and also as you mature in your spirituality, that it becomes more of a passionate thing. Like I go to church because I want to go to church, because I want to grow and know more about God and experience God on a deeper level. I fast because of the fact that I know that this was needed to be closer to God, not because of the fact of like, it's just what I'm supposed to do. So I think you probably start, and it's probably good to start from a duty perspective. And then as you mature and grow as adults, we get to a passionate perspective, where we couldn't handle a passionate perspective as children. So yeah.
That's good. It reminds me of like what Brandon, we were talking about yesterday when we talked about, or the day before. So it's like grace doesn't exist without law, and it's like duty, like passion doesn't exist without duty. So unless you have a concept of like you're supposed to do this, like you never, I don't know if you can never, but I think like Kevin said, it's like a prerequisite for passion. I don't know why.
I think in some aspects it's
in some aspects,
I think it helps you to understand the different aspects of it. So I think it's important to have a level of duty in it, but I think that sometimes you have to have duty just because you can't operate without some type of structure, some type of control, or expectation and consequences.
I wonder if duty provides like the how to when it comes time where you like action. Like I think about like me right now. So I'm like in this consecration or this fast. And you know, growing up, you hear like you fast, you don't drink, but you don't eat for an entire day. And it's really just religious, like you said, like, oh, I'm doing it because I have to, like, I'm starving. I remember one time in middle school, our church was on a fast and I just starved. And it was like, I was just starving just because I was starving. Like, I didn't read the Bible. I didn't pray. I was literally just starving myself. And I was like, oh yeah, I survived it. And I thought I was like winning because I survived the fast. And I'm doing a consecration, and me and Jordan had like this interesting conversation about like from food as basically as impactful today as it was in the Bible days where they fasted from food. And like, why did Daniel really fast? And what was the point of the Daniel fast? So when it came time to make up like my consecration and what I was giving up, I decided to give up social media and TV. Because for me, when I think about things that distract me from God, it's social media and TV. When I think about things that I can replace with prayer and reading the Bible that will really impact me, it would be social media and TV as opposed to like food. because of like Kevin said, like the reason for the fast is to grow closer to God. And like when I first started my fast, my day one was like, okay, I can't watch TV. I'm just gonna sit and read my Bible all day. I'm gonna go through the Bible in a year. Like I added the little devotional plan to to the Bible app and everything. What first night I was like, you know what? This is a lie. This is what I'm supposed to do. I made it through like Genesis 1. Because the Bible in a year, it's like you get a chapter from the New Testament and the Old Testament and the Psalm and the Proverbs every day. And I was like, my God, I'm reading about the genealogy of Jesus. Like, what is this doing for me right now? So I was like, okay, this is duty. Like, Randy, get out of, you have to do this one particular thing. Like, think of something that's actually going to be impactful. So Jordan told me about this a while ago, but there are videos about every book of the Bible.
Crazy, right?
Oh my goodness. It was like, and then the Bible series, it's like a revelation. Like, oh my goodness.
Look at the Bible
all these years and it just did not make sense to me. But you can watch this movie, which puts it into like so much context, and I'm getting like so much more impact from it. Where if I was just to rely on duty, I would have tried to read the Bible and just been falling asleep on it every night and really not walking away with anything. But it's like, okay, the duty told me, like, Randy, you need to read your Bible. Like, you need to find some way that you grow more in his word. So like the duty provided that aspect of it. But then the passion was like, okay, Randy, you need to find something that's impactful. So I think like duty provided the guideline that got me to like passion, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
A ton of it.
Yeah, so I think that like I like that it kind of is like the when you think about like Rosalie just eats milk right now and drinks, right? But that's all she does, and it's because physically she's not at the position where she can eat or drink anything else, right? If you were to try to give her meat or steak or something, her body wouldn't tolerate it, and it wouldn't give her all the nutrition that she just needs right now. But then again, if she stayed on milk her entire life, again, it wouldn't give her all the nutrition that she needs. There's this natural development that we have is just physically as people, where we go from, milk to solid food. And I think that there's the same progression that happens essentially with motivation. So how are we motivated? Naturally, we need to start off being motivated by things that are external. They're extrinsic, the carrot and the rod. Ruby's going to do something. It's going to be because she's either going to get a reward or she's going to get punished. Because she doesn't have the capacity to know that she has passions, that what to do with passions, that there's good passions and bad passions. She's just not there psychologically to understand that. But then again, if she's 30 and her major concept of good and bad or what she should do is dad's gonna spank me or I'm gonna go to jail or anything that's extrinsic, I've failed as a parent. And I think that's the progression. I think it has to start off as duty.
What caused that shift from duty to passion?
What?
Or what do you attribute that shift to?
Maturity.
What causes the shift?
Yeah. From needing duty from operating in duty to operating in passion, I think it's maturity. Once you've been in a place of like, I have to do this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what's required of me, to then understanding why it's required of you, what it actually means to do certain things. I think that's where you get to then develop, all right, I have a passion for actually doing this. Not because I'm just told, like, why do you go to church? Like a fundamental thing. Why do you go to church? Like for a long time, we just went to church because we were told to do that, but not really understanding why. And then once you get to a place where you actually understand the benefits of going to church, then you choose to go to church, not because you have to go to church, but you literally go to church because, I want to go to church. I want to be surrounded by people who are believing the same thing that I'm doing, going in the same direction that I'm going, that I can link up with, that I can pray with, that can support me, that can hug me, and be okay. Like, I do it because of that. I'm not doing it because I was told, like, you need to be at church every Sunday. You need to be at church every Wednesday. I think that's the reason why. But it's because I matured or because you mature that you then transition from like what you're supposed to do and looking at solely at consequences, like Brandon mentioned, like you're solely looking at consequences or benefits to like actually like internally, like I may not get nothing tangible. It's more so like I'm just gaining something not tangible, something more so like
intrinsic.
Or maybe not even gaining something. It's more so just reassuring or supporting what you already have.
Yeah.
Do you think it's maturity? Because sometimes I feel like the older generation, like when you think about like our grandparents, like I feel like there are some things our grandparents do just out of routine. So do you think like do you think it's maturity, or do you just think it's like phase of life of like, okay, when you're a child it's duty, then like in your middle years like you go into, and then at the end you move back to duty? Or
maybe it's,
I don't know. I just think like,
what is revelation and experience and encounter? Because I think it's like range, like you said, you seen yourself just reading the Bible, and then whatever happened, and you're like, this is duty. It's me just. I don't think you matured in that moment, but I think a revelation occurred in that moment. He's like, I'm just doing this because of this, as opposed to actually doing something to gain. So I would say it's more a revelation, and not like a phase. Because I thought you can be young and understand like duty. Maybe not Ruby's age, but maybe like it's a teenager, or
or you could even you never know. I mean, God could use a baby, so it's possible that God could speak to a baby and the baby know and understand potentially, because God is able to do all things. So it's a possibility. But I think there's certain people who their comfort level is, I think there's a comfort level in duty, and so they stay in duty just because that's what they're used to, that's what they know, that's what they found to benefit them. And they've never explored what does this mean if I didn't do it because I was told to do it, or because once you get out of the mindset of tradition. I mean, it's even the same thing as work. Like, how many people, for a long time, people thought you had to go to a 9-to-5, and that was the only way that you were going to make money. And then there were people who, like, why am I going to this 9-to-5? Why am I working this job? And so then they started to think, oh, maybe if I have my own job, I'm still getting money, but I'm doing it in a different way. And so they found other ways, but you would never know or understand, like, the reason why you go to work is to earn money so that you can live. You're not living to go to work. But because you mature and you see,
and I think that idea is really generational.
Say it again?
Like millennials have like a completely different view of that than like baby boomers and Gen X's, and even like, what is the new generation? Gen Y is up there, and Gen Z. Is that what's after us? Because like I manage a lot of baby boomers, and when I tell you they want to come in and leave, and they don't want to go to lunch, they don't want to come to any team events, they just don't want it. They want to come in, they want to do their job no matter how monotonous it is, and leave. You can try to give them everything as like a, what is it called? Like team bonding, and like, I want to make your job better. Like I literally have gone into a room with someone and she don't care. You could give her a bad review. She don't care. Is she losing her job? So it's like, we get that revelation, so to speak. And we're like, I'm changing my life right now. But I feel like some people, or the other generations, they get that revelation. They're like, oh, well, that's nice, but I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily say it's limited to just generations though, because if that was the case, then it would never, like, there's so many companies that were birthed out of entrepreneurship. So there's no way for us to say like it was only like 9-to-5 people who then created other jobs that were 9-to-5 jobs. There has to be some. There are people. I think it goes back to comfort. In my opinion, it has to go to comfort and what people. Some people are just okay with just doing what they were told to do, and some people are like, you know what, like this isn't enough. It's the same thing with slavery. We didn't have the Sojourner Truths and the people who were like, girl, this is not. Like, there has to be another way. There's no way that we're supposed to be in this land and just doing the same thing. We have to fight. We have to fight and get out of this condition. But there were some people who were like, I'm okay with working. and being in the field. And I think it's just there's certain people I wouldn't limit it to generations. I was limited to some people who are comfortable, who see like, yo, this works and I'm okay with it and I'm satisfied with it. And there's some people who are like, I'm not just going to take. I think that's what our generation is. There's a lot of people in our generation who aren't just willing to settle with just what they're getting.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot. I think it's well, I can't say exposure, but I would say exposure to a life of passion. I would say exposure to a life of passion, like exposure to know that you don't have to stick with.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know though.
Exposure definitely plays a role in the ability.
But then exposure can be like belief wise, you're exposed to different beliefs, something different, or actual like physical exposure. So.
But I don't know. But then you have like people in the same. I feel like you have people who grow up under the same circumstances, and one will always rely out of duty, and one will always act out of passion. So like, what is the determining factor there?
I think you're layering like multiple things on top of each other. I think one of the greatest. So like, temperament is real. I think so for me. Temperament is real. Temperament is your hardwire. So that's like, this is who I am fundamentally. Like it's almost like I was born this way. But then there's this huge personality that you get, and that's based on your interactions with the culture that you're a part of. And I think that we sometimes merge those together, but they're also very separate. So when I look at the two kids, and so we just said it, like I'm a passion person. Randy, you're a duty person. Same roof, same parents. Although our parents were different because they had grown and all that jazz, but pretty much we're in the same roof, same culture. We turned out two different ways. And I think that boils down to something about temperament. And we took the temperament test. I'm an idealist, you're a guardian, you know? So I think that means something. But the culture, you can't ignore culture, because you think about the baby boomers, when resources get slim, that's when like rules come into play, and you have to have some type of politics that really govern what happens with a limited number of resources. So the baby boomers, the big things in their generation was the baby boomers, because all the men from war came back home after war. But then you also have, and if I'm not mistaken, you have the Great Depression, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I want to say that those are around the same time. So like with war, you have the resources are the men. The men are gone. In a time when men were the main breadwinners, at a time when men were the staple of the family, they're gone. With the Great Depression, you had this emptying of just financial resources. So what took place was rules. And if you didn't comply by the rules, and people just, it sucked. Things didn't go well. So like, maybe that's the cultural piece that you get with the baby boomers, that their life was so routine and monotonous because of the rules that came with the Great Depression and the war itself, and then the fathers coming home from war. And that's probably what you got from there that you don't get with millennials, you know, is our generation. The worst thing that we've experienced is what, 9/11?
Recession. The recession was in
yeah, the housing market in the recession was 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But that still wasn't nothing compared to, in my opinion, that wasn't nothing.
Yeah, it wasn't the Great Depression at all.
And it's nothing, I wouldn't even compare it to 9/11. I think 9/11 had a bigger impact on the way we live our lives. It's 4:50. I think we got about like 5 more minutes left. But I think that sidebar. I think that 9/11 did more for it changed the way we live our life more than I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
The housing crisis.
I think I think it could be argued, just because I think there's a lot of people who, when the recession hit, were definitely impacted and are still being impacted. Look how many people who have just like simple jobs or are unable to find jobs. How many people went back to school, working in higher education? You see, like how many people were pushed back into.
That
say it again.
Was that a result?
That was where we saw the recession. People were losing their jobs, and so people had to go back to school, or they were thought, "Oh, let me go back to school because I need to get more education." And so, if you get more education, then you think that you can get a better job or get a job. But then you have all these people. I think in Maryland, like it's so normal to have a master's degree. So to be competing with another person who has a master's degree who also has years of experience, it makes it hard for new graduates out of college to find jobs. And so I think the recession is I think it definitely has an impact, especially on our generation of people being able to find jobs, being able to afford even basic necessities, being able to pay student loans back, the amount of loan debt. So just a thought. I think it all impacts.
Jordan, what are you doing over there?
That was a spark. Like, we're going golf.
Well, you're the leader of the phone call. So
y'all wait. I was just trying to follow it because I thought it was coming back, but it never. I don't know if it came back or not.
But no, I'll bring it back.
But we're still there.
I can try to bring it back.
So
I think
for the closing for us.
Well, no, not for the closing, just for like this part of the conversation. So I think like the war and the Great Depression that led that generation more towards duty over passion because
absolutely.
And then for us, 9/11 in the recession, we responded the opposite. It moved us more towards passion as opposed to duty.
Patriotism.
Huh?
I think that's what it did. Patriotism. Like that's what.
Well, I think it also created the reality that like.
I actually think more people. I don't know.
No, I think the war on terrorism. I think the war on terrorism made us like it gave you the war on terrorism plus all the terrorist acts that we've lived through in our lifespan. We can't rely on duty and we're moved more toward passion because you can die at any minute. Like I think we are like, I think more of us don't see that they're going to live till the 60s because you can walk into a movie theater and die, or your first grader can be at school and get shot. So I think like we have there are situations that we're experiencing in our life that are moving us more towards passion. Not to say that those things didn't happen to the baby boomers, but like with widespread social media, like everything. I think our lives are. I feel like my life is not limited. Like I think I'm going to live long, but like there's the reality. It's a reality that you may not live forever, as opposed to like. Or you don't think so, Brandon?
When could you ever live forever?
I'm thinking not like
forever, but just live longer,
bro. I think you'd be crazy to think that when you like, you'd be crazy to not even think when you go to certain places that something potentially couldn't happen. If you don't go anywhere,
like you get nervous just going to New York.
Ever look over the side of your shoulder, or make sure that you don't look at something, or double check or double look. If you don't do that at all, like you're living in a fantasy world, because there's no way that you could, like Randy said, in today's time, like there's no safe havens at all. Like you can go to church and be like, I go to church sometimes, and I'm like, I just be looking at the person.
These are first world problems, by the way.
Huh?
No, for sure. We're in the first world. Brandon.
These are first world problems.
Yeah, we're in the first world.
I'm just saying. I think that, to Randy's point, I just think that there is a passion component to it, just because of the fact that you take more appreciation in all the moments that you have versus like, oh, I'm going to be here forever, so I have time.
So you don't lose.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like our whole concept, I think that I live with is like no regrets, and I feel like living out of duty and obligation, I feel like I regret more, as opposed to like living out of passion.
Sorry, Brandon was signing.
So that's our time, and so
we'll be doing our song.
Yes, for the theme song.
Duty versus passion, and moving more. So I think it's a consensus. We all want to move more towards passion than duty, or have them align in the one.
Nope, not me.
Brandon needs to move the other way.
No,
Brandon's moving to the left.
And I think that to tie it into just the overall concept of our videos, like I think we also shared.
What's the video, Kevin?
The process in which we I think that we just understand the process at which we go about accomplishing things, whether it be easy or whether it be hard. What? I just think to tie it in with the overall goal, I think it also. Yeah. I think that this also allowed us to talk about our process and what you go about doing it.
What is on your
It's
lip?
good to be able to like to get perspectives. To maybe like we walk away and like adopt some of the things that were shared.
And I think even so, to tie it up too, is like to suffer well in that duty phase. Because I think oftentimes you're in duty, you're like, I gotta do this. But like learning how to suffer well in that phase and just moving, hoping that those align. I don't know.
Passion isn't, I mean, I think you're making it the claim, and this is to be like one of our last remarks. The claim isn't that you can only suffer in duty. I think that, you know, you suffer whether you're in passion or you're in duty. And even if you're passionate,
you might suffer more in passion. But
probably, yes. So, I mean, so that's just the reality. Like, wherever you find yourself, whatever you're doing, whatever your percentages are, like you're bound to suffer. To live is to suffer. So the idea is to suffer well, knowing that it's temporary because we're not going to live forever. But then whatever you're going through right now, again, it is temporary. You'll see better days, you'll see worse days. And it's the hills and the valleys of life. So it's learning how to suffer well and know that this too shall pass, whether it's good or bad.
This too shall pass. Amen.
So, all right, that's the way to close it.
Way to close it?
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Pass.
Suffer well in passion or in duty.
Yes. Have a good 2018. See you
Yep.
next week.
Lit.
We will see.
Lit.
Week, bright and early.
Lit is in 2017, Randy.
Bright and early, dark and late.
We don't say lit in 2018. I'm sorry. Bright and early, dark and late.
What?
Whatever that means.
Early, dark and late. There we go. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.